Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor. Now, today we're going to be talking about my favorite book of all time. It's the My Favorite Book of All Time tag. I'm doing a tag today. Not what I expected to do, but I've only got about 10 minutes or so. Somewhere around there. I don't have much time to film today. And this was a little tag. It's basically one question. What's your favorite book of all time? Steve Donoghue came up with this question because he wants to know, and he wants you to keep it short. 15 minutes or less, he says. You know, Steve Donoghue, he's the soul of brevity. He's not one of those booktubers that just goes on and on. No way, not him. He doesn't do like 3 or 4 videos a day. That's excessive. Nope. Straight to the point, Steve Donoghue, and that's what he wants you to be in this here video, in this tag. So that's what I'll be. So my favorite book of all time is obviously this one, Herodotus. This is the greatest book ever, but I've talked about this a lot, and I'm going to be talking about this a lot more this year. I've got a whole thing going on, so you're going to be hearing a bit more from me about Herodotus and some other ancient historians. But that's all in the future. So I thought maybe I'll just talk about my favorite fictional book, which I've always considered to be Sherlock Holmes, the complete Sherlock Holmes. But then I was thinking, is it really? Do I really like Sherlock Holmes more than, say, the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft? In real life, if I really think about it, those two are neck and neck. So I really had to sit and think, what is my favorite book of all time? Like my favorite fictional book. What is it? Which is tough because, you know, I love so many. But if I'm being completely honest, my favorite fiction book of all time is from my favorite fiction writer of all time. And that would be this one, Conan by Robert E. Howard. If I'm being honest, this is the one. Now, Conan comes in this Del Rey edition in 3 volumes, but I'm going to consider it one book. It's been published as one book, Conan has. I've got a hardcover in a box. But this is my favorite edition of Conan. This is the Del Rey set. Every scrap that he wrote about Conan, Robert E. Howard, is in this set. You've got The Coming of Conan, the fantastic first volume of Conan. You've got The Bloody Crown of Conan. This is a great volume. It has my favorite Conan story, which is The Hour of the Dragon, when he's a king and he has to defend his kingdom. And then the last volume, the concluding volume, The Conquering Sword of Conan. Now, Conan, I love Conan, and I love Robert E. Howard. Of course, I originally came to know Conan as a comic book when I was a little kid reading comics. Every kid I knew loved Conan comic books, like literally every kid. Those were different days. But I finally got to read Conan later as a young man. And Robert E. Howard's writing, it just sweeps you right away. He's the type of writer that when you read his stories, you experience his stories, you know. He's the ultimate escape. He writes the ultimate escape writing. Just great adventure stories. And Conan and his adventures in the Hyborian Age are just incredible stories, really. They're pulp. Robert E. Howard was a pure pulp writer. He was the greatest pulp writer who ever lived. That's not just my opinion. That's an established fact. And his Conan stories, in my opinion, they're his best work. They are his masterpiece, his Conan stories. True, Conan is not the greatest book in the world. It's not the greatest fictional book that I've read, but it is my favorite. I have a great love for Conan and these stories. There's a lot that I like about it. Like I said, this type of story, the way Robert E. Howard wrote them, they take you right away. You're completely in Conan's world when you're reading these stories. You're experiencing the adventure. You're not just reading the adventure. And Conan is actually a very interesting character. If you only know Conan from the movies or even from the comic book, you don't really know Conan. Conan was a very intelligent guy. He was an opportunist. He always looked out for number one, although he had a definite code. It was kind of a barbaric code, but it was a code. And he was a lot more honorable than a lot of civilized people he ran into. And it's a very American story, the Conan saga. It's basically a rags to riches story in a way. It's a story about a guy who started off from nothing. He just wandered down from the hills of Cimmerian with only his sword, and managed, through a series of adventures, which are not told chronologically, he managed to make himself the king of the greatest nation in his age. And along the way, had all kinds of incredible adventures in different roles. This guy was a pirate, he was a thief, he was a bandit chieftain, he was a general. He did a lot of stuff, Conan did, in his slow rise to power. And then he became a king, and the adventures continued after he was a king. And he's just a really, really interesting guy. And I like Conan. I like him as a character. He's very self-sufficient. He's not whiny. He doesn't have any self-doubt. He's just a very self-reliant, tough individual who had incredible adventures. And he's kind of shady, this guy. Morally gray, you could say. But like I said, he did have a sense of honor. So it's fun stuff, a great character, a really good time, the Conan stories. That's why I love them. Robert E. Howard, an underrated writer, although I do see on BookTube nowadays more people reading and talking about Robert E. Howard, which is wonderful. I'm going to be talking a lot more about Robert E. Howard in the near future. Mondays are going to be devoted in the future to Robert E. Howard for a while, just as I have devoted Mondays to H.P. Lovecraft up to this point. And I probably will do a random H.P. Lovecraft video here and there, but I definitely do want to focus on more Robert E. Howard. Such a great writer. He wrote a lot of stuff, but Conan, the best. So yeah, Conan, my favorite book. There you go. This was Steve Donoghue, tagged everybody. So you are already tagged. Although I do want to particularly point out a brand new channel, not just book reviews. I just saw his newbie tag that he did a couple of days ago, and it's really, really good. It's like 9,000 times better than mine was. He's really good, but he's just starting out. Doesn't have many subscribers, I don't think, yet. You know how it is when you start off a channel. It takes a while to get running. So I would appreciate if all of you could go check out his channel and subscribe to his channel, because it's gonna be good. I can tell already. So there you go. He's tagged for sure, not just book reviews. So there you go. My favorite book of all time. Tomorrow, be right back here at Stately Vaughn Manor as we dive into the books that time forgot. Bye, guys.